So, am I kicked out of the fandom yet? Now I was going to do a whole month dedicated to US properties that were made into anime, and I still plan to do so, but this one is special. For those who don't know, Supernatural is an American TV show starring Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles as brothers Sam and Dean Winchester, respectively, two hunters of supernatural and paranormal beings and also constant starters of apocalypses. I actually did a review of season 1 not that long ago. There are actually 11 seasons of this show and a 12th one that just started last week, and holy goddamn, that is a lot. But before all that, back in 2010, when the show was on its 6th season, which could be hit or miss, mostly miss, WB and animation studio Madhouse, studio of my favorite anime Death Note, got together to create a one-season anime that combined original stories along with stories from season 1 and 2, but adapted for this alternate universe thing they wanted to do. And with a show like Supernatural that goes out of the box and even over the fourth wall a lot, it wouldn't be that hard to do. I personally love this show, but I love myths and monsters, demons, and supernatural beings in general. So a show that features that along with two interesting brothers who actors have such a very powerful and wonderful chemistry, along with not just interesting main characters but side characters as well, I'm sold. Supernatural has a strong fandom. I mean, fuck, you don't stay on the air for 12 years and not have fan support. And their voices are very, very loud. They show up with Undertale levels of determination of support for things they like and don't like. Everything from supporting actor Jared Padalecki's Always Keep Fighting campaign to easing the public's memory of the Supernatural spin-off Bloodlines. And if you just said, I didn't know they had a spin-off, the fandom is why. So that may be why you haven't heard of this. So why does the fandom not want you to know about this little animated spin-off that made them bury it into almost obscurity? I remember ads for this anime on TV and that was about it. I never heard from it again. Well, there's only one way to find out. Grab your salt and get your shotguns ready. This is Supernatural, the anime series. As I stated earlier, this anime is supposed to be in an alternate universe of seasons 1 and 2 combined. So there are recreations of certain episodes in the series, like Skin, Roadkill, and even that episode Heart, where Sam tried to hook up with their werewolf girl, along with some new original stories made for the anime for the boys to interact with. Since it is seasons 1 and 2, there is no Castiel, but there is Bobby. It does seem that when we open up to the first episode, Sam has been hunting with Dean for a while now, and Jess, Sam's old girlfriend, has been dead for a while, probably only a few months give or take. While in the live action show, we start the series with Dean needing Sam's help to find their dad and Sam returning to find his girlfriend killed in the same manner as their mother. As I said before, I did a review of season 1, and if you want more details about it, I suggest that you go watch that. But a lot of the episodes in this anime that aren't adaptations are still interesting enough to hold you and are actually very good character development episodes. I do want to talk about a couple of episodes that stood out to me and that I think helped to add to the Supernatural canon as a whole. Episodes 6, 12, and 17. So, episode 6 is really good because it helped me get more insight into Jessica more and started something that the anime does a lot better than the main show, and that's John Winchester's redemption. This episode, we saw Jessica and Sam meet for the first time and actually develop the beginnings of their relationship. I like this because in my review of season 1, I complained that I didn't understand why Sam nor the fandom loved Jessica when all we got to see of her were a couple of quick minutes of her in a nurse outfit and then in her Smurf pajamas. I didn't really get a lot of character from her, and I didn't really get the sense of urgency, protection, and love that so many people got when Sam found her up on the ceiling. Here, I get it. I see how they meet, I see how they connect, and I see how Sam is really determined to help save Jessica from this supernatural being that's following her and her friends. As well, John Winchester starts his redemption arc in this series. I say redemption arc because him and Dean are actually around in California hunting down the same creature that is tracking down Jessica. And as Dean tries to talk to Sam, John persuades him not to do so.
If it's in Stanford, we already have someone to show us around town, right? No. Don't drag Sam into this. He's got his own life now, Dean. He's not part of our world anymore.
However, it's not out of resentment nor anger, as the John Winchester from the main show would have done. Instead, this is out of a protection. This John Winchester does not want to see Sam back in this life, especially when he's very proud of his academic accomplishments and sees him as a way out of a very horrible lifestyle. Rather, him backing Dean off from talking to Sam is one out of wanting to see Sam grow and become a real man with a real job and a real family, instead of a hunter living a downgraded lifestyle of unhappiness and sorrow. Episode 12 kind of follows this same idea of redeeming John Winchester, as we see him on a case by himself. We get to see how he actually works and how he deals with stuff. And I have to say, I think that this John Winchester representation is actually a lot more subdued than the one in the show. We never really got to see him work by himself. And all the stories we heard about him hunting were always relayed through Dean, who always made him out to be a hard ass, and to be honest, when we saw him, he was a hard ass. So we get to see John being a hard ass, but also being a bit more caring. Actually, a lot more caring, I think, than what we would have seen in the show if we did have a solo John Winchester episode. Now, episode 17 is the really interesting one, as that one is based off the comic. Yes, Supernatural had a small comic run that was actually done by DC. You can actually go download it from the DC Comics digital library. This episode, I have to say, was pretty interesting. This episode shows Sam's powers developing when he was younger and actually being more visible to both John and Dean. In fact, hunters are actually coming after Sam because of what they hear around in the hunter circle, that Sam is somehow a monster because of his interaction with this demon. Now, I have to say, I'm not too critical on this episode with the source material because I have not read the comics. But if you have, please let me know in the comments if it's really that great of an adaptation of it. The main characters in this anime are Sam, Dean, and John Winchester. Sam acts pretty much the same as he does in the regular show, but Dean seems to me a bit out of character. For example, Dean in this anime does and says some things that I don't really think sound like Dean. One big switch in this series is the stance the boys have on finding their dad in season 1. In the anime, while Sam wavers between this as the season goes on, he is more interested in solving smaller cases, while Dean is dead set on finding their dad. In the main show, while Dean did want to find their dad, he was the main one trying to convince Sam to take the smaller cases in between finding him. I think Sam being less out of character is mostly thanks to Jared Padalecki, who by this time spent 6 seasons with Sam Winchester, pretty much honing him down. So he has a pretty good grasp on what Sam would say and not say in certain situations. And it really wouldn't surprise me if he went back to the translators and writers to say, yeah, hey, Sam wouldn't really do that. Dean, on the other hand, isn't that fortunate, because Jensen Ackles only shows up for the last 2 episodes of the anime, and you have a voice actor who is just starting to get a feel for the character and doesn't understand him the way Jensen and the people who watched him for 6 seasons do. And you have him play Dean for 20 episodes. Now that's not to say that Andrew Farrar doesn't try, he just doesn't have a good enough understanding of Dean as Jensen has. And while I'm not a Dean person myself, I have to say some out of character scenes are a bit much for me. He seems too aloof in cases about letting stuff slide or just abandoning the people there. But if there is one thing I liked about the anime more than the show, is that they made Dean a lot more open with his emotions. It may just be a girl thing or the fact that I don't understand brother dynamics, but I just always wonder why the 2 fools can never just talk to one another about their feelings or personal issues, instead of letting it build up to some kind of aneurysm. I'm glad he's letting it all out here. I just wish he did it more on the show. This anime, I have to say, does a better job at trying to form a redemption for John Winchester than the regular show did. Even by admission of his own actor, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he said that whether John knew it or not, he messed up Sam and Dean. John was shown to be a tough bastard, driving the point of overprotected parent to a crazy extreme, but the show does a good job at trying to make him look better, as I stated with my examples of other episodes. It doesn't erase all the damage he did, but it does give him a couple of brownie points. Once again, Madhouse does a really good job with the animation, and I have to say I really like the style. Very American comic booky, especially with the shading. I have have to say that when I normally watch horror anime, or hell, even reading horror manga, especially with supernatural beings, it's hard to scare me with the imagery. For example, Hell Girl. I never really liked that anime when I first watched it because the imagery for the people being sent to hell never scared me. It didn't frighten me, fill me with dread, have me just shaking my head with the thought of, oh, fuck this shit. None of that. This show, however, had plenty of moments of body horror and just straight up nope that, yeah, nope, didn't like it. So that's one thing I love that they got right about the show. Because while Supernatural can be a bit corny at times, they do have some monsters and beings that just scare the crap out of me. I love the way they capture the overall likeness of what we know Sam and Dean to look like without just copying Jared and Jensen's faces outright. All the design details of important props like the Colt and John's journal are great, and the design of the Impala all around is gorgeous. I especially love the 360 or 180 shot. As well, I don't really mind the redesigns for Missouri, Bobby, or John. I feel that they fit in with their surroundings, and I have to say that they're not that bad. You can get used to them really fast. Now, the soundtrack is not something I'm used to on this show, and for me it doesn't really fit in some cases. With the live-action version, its soundtrack is mostly rock-based, lots of guitars, drum, bass, and riffs. And even if they can, actual classic 70s and 80s rock songs. This soundtrack is orchestral. The action scene's background music sounds like it's out of an RPG fight sequence, and it is used over and over and over again for pretty much any heavy action or emotional scene. It loses its punch after a while. However, I wonder if it was a stylistic choice or if it was because Madhouse wanted to use certain songs but couldn't due to licensing. I wonder because at the end of one episode it sounded like, in the American release, they put the actual Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas over a cover version sung by a different actor. It's hard to tell, but you can hear it if you have a sharp ear. In fact, there are a couple of instances where they either forgot or just didn't care to go and dub over some places. Speaking of... Now, I already mentioned the issue with the voice actors during the character segment, so I won't drone on too much. Like I said before, Jared Padalecki, who plays Sam Winchester in the show, voices him here as well, which is great. But Dean's voice actor isn't Jensen Ackles. He only shows up for the last 2 episodes of the series. But this other guy, Andrew Farrar, is voicing Dean through episodes 1 through 20. I can already tell you, as someone who has seen all the seasons from the beginning, this is going to be an issue for fans who are used to Jensen's voice. And if it's too much of a distraction and you don't mind subtitles, the Japanese original is just fine. This is mostly due to the fact that Farrar sounds like he is trying to do an impersonation of Jensen doing Dean's voice. He focuses so much on keeping that raspy aspect of Dean's voice, which to be fair didn't come till much later in the series, that on some cases where it sounds like he should emote more, he's stifled, and I think it's because of this. In this show, you can tell Jared is a novice. Just in some cases, he reads the lines so fast without taking into consideration that he has to sync up lip movements, but the emotion behind those reads is good enough that I can go past it sometimes. But other times it's so noticeable, I wonder, why did they keep that in and let it slide? Why didn't they do another take? At least he isn't skipping on emotion, I guess, but I can't lie, it is a bit of a hindrance and takes me out of the scenes. As for Andrew, you could tell he knows his stuff, syncing up perfectly with Dean's lip movements. Like I said, his only fault is the impression he tries to do. Now, according to the Supernatural show wiki, due to scheduling issues with Jensen, he couldn't do the dub. So I get it, but still, Dean's voice just sounds off. When you're used to hearing this...
Sam? Onions. There's no onions in mine.
Yeah, so what?
Didn't I say with onions?
Should have gotten it yourself then.
A man should be able to have onions on his burger if he wants.
Not my problem.
Ugh, can be an obnoxious little brother sometimes, you know that?
Compared to this...
Dean, get over it. It's a car.
It's more than that. It's the closest thing I have to a girlfriend.
You know, I think I'm beginning to see the reason why you can't seem to hold down a relationship.
Oh, yeah? Well, why don't you explain it to me, little brother?
You're a geek for your car.
I'm not a geek!
It doesn't sound right, especially if Sam's voice is a constant throughout. And then it gets pretty fucking jarring when you do adjust to it like I did around the end of the series, and bam, you get Dean's original voice. Jared as well as Jensen are good examples of just how regular actors can be good voice actors. Their inflections and emotions come through their voices and create wonderful, powerful moments. And especially with the opening monologue from episode 22 that Jensen does, that whole recreation, it was beautiful. The two just have a really deep chemistry, and you feel the attachment they have to their characters in those last 2 episodes. And it kind of is a testament to the fact that Farr did try, but just couldn't compete with Jensen. He pretty much acted him out of the water, as sad that is to hear.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done.
I honestly think that if this anime was in the hands of a company that was used to translating and dubbing anime properly, like Funimation, Viz, Sentai Works, or Aniplex, then this would have been a lot better on a technical level, and possibly on a character developing level for some episodes. You can tell the heart and passion was there. These people who made it obviously liked the show and stories they were making, and you can see that. But a lot of the technical issues can really take you out of the experience, and including moments where the boys seem to be out of character. And let's not forget that while this is an alternate universe, these 2 boys' personality are what drew us in the first place. And there are only so many times you can skew that personality before the brothers feel odd. Now, does this show deserve to be forgotten? No. If anything, I'm gonna ask something. If one of those companies I mentioned is watching, I propose you with this. Would you want to take this show and redo it? Like, clean it up on the technical end, aka make sure the voices sync up, add in a rock soundtrack here and there, and possibly see if Jared and Jensen can come in for voices and possible character consistency checks. Treat it with some care and re-release it. I think it could actually work. Overall, this show is not the best, but it does have that spark there. That spark and passion and love that makes this anime still a fun and interesting thing to watch. Now, I was gonna give it 2 different scores like I did with Bayonetta Bloody Fate. One for the fans out there who were curious and wanted to check it out, and then one for those who haven't seen or only watched a few episodes of Supernatural and don't know a lot about it. But in all honesty, the more I thought about it on both ends, looking at it as a fan and a critic, I have to say that Supernatural, the anime, gets a 7.5. Something special, but something gone. The 0.5 is mostly because it almost gets up to an 8 when Jensen comes in, and I think that he might be the thing that's missing. I think if Jensen was involved in this anime, that it actually would have been pretty good. Like I said, with the WB, who's not really known for anime dubs, their technical aspects really did put a hindrance on this show, but that's only if you watch the dub. If you watch this show subbed, which you can do if you buy the DVD, then it's actually an 8. Like I said, the passion and the heart is there. It's just Jensen missing, and the technical aspects really hinder this. Especially with some of the moments where the boys feel out of character. But they, oddly enough, slip back into character when Jared and Jensen get back together and that chemistry starts going. So, no, this anime doesn't deserve to be forgotten about, but check out the sub if you can. If you don't want to watch the sub but still want to watch the show, well, here's some good news. The WB a while ago released all 22 episodes of this anime dubbed on their YouTube channel behind the backlot or something like that. I don't know, I'll put up a link for it. But you can watch all of them there. So, I hope you all enjoy this, and I hope you all enjoy Season 12. Let's see how long it takes before shit hits the fan. Anyway, this is AnimeSelect signing off, and I will see you all in another review soon. See ya!